By a 5-4 vote, same-sex marriage is now legal in the United States, and that ruling came down from the Supreme Court within the last 2 hours. So we'd like to bring in our law expert from Cooley Law, Curt Benson. He joins us here in studio today to talk about this. We've been on the air for a couple of hours talking about this. Any surprises here? Anything to you that we didn't see coming?
Well, not really. It's a very sweeping language, but of course Justice Kennedy is renowned for the way he writes. He's very florid in his writing, and Justice Scalia, in dissent, rather sharply suggested he's trying to find memorable phrases for his legacy. But it was a very sweeping ruling. It was it was all substantive due process, it's liberty interests, and it's like a whole constitutional law class jammed into a couple of pages. So,
sure.
but the idea that it's 5-4 with Justice Kennedy writing the opinion, I think surprises very few people.
Okay. This really takes the question of marriage right out of the state, doesn't it? It's this blanket decision, and it really removes any bans or any voter decisions.
Well, it really does. And what of the plaintiffs, including the state of Michigan, argued, look, the federal government has no role in marriage. You don't file divorces in federal court. You don't go to a federal judge to determine visitation of minor children and the like. It's always been a state thing. But of course, what Justice Kennedy said, and the majority of the justices said, well, it's still a state thing. States, you still run, in effect, marriages. However, you just can't do it contrary to the 14th Amendment. And therefore, you must issue licenses to same-sex couples so they can enjoy the dignity and the special status that society affords married people.
Moving forward, do you see any sticking points with this?
Well, there's still a question of adoption, for example, because what happens if a state says, okay, fine, you can marry, but you can't adopt, which ironically is what led to this from the state of Michigan.
Our couple is in Ann Arbor.
Yeah, and so I expect, much like the Roe versus Wade decision, I expect that there will be a lot of efforts on some state legislatures to try to get little inroads, like the adoption issue, or maybe a tax change or something, in order to somehow thwart this. The difference being, whereas I don't think I think Americans in general are moving towards acceptance of gay couples, so I expect you're going to see a flurry of legislative action from more conservative members, and I have a feeling within a few years, people aren't going to care that much.
So there's going to be a little resistance, you think?
Oh, I expect so. Oh, I expect a lot, but it's going to be a minority, and eventually I think the efforts will give way, and people will simply accept this, and this will be the new normal.
And move on. All right. Curt Benson joining us. Thank you so much for your thoughts on this. We appreciate your insight so much.
You're very welcome.